Welcome everyone to a special edition of On the Beat with KDJ. I am your host, Kevin Devaney Jr. This is our 2012 year in review of high school football in the Hudson Valley. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to highlight the best of the best. We're going to reveal our Section 1 and Section 9 All-Star teams, my picks for the players of the year, as well as highlight the top games and moments from the season. When you look back at 2012, it was a wild one. Hurricane Sandy and the snowstorm the week after wreaked havoc on the schedule, but in the end, we saw the rise of Section 9 football. Two teams made a trip to the state championship, and one came away with the state title. We begin our review of Section 1 here at Somers High School as we take a look at the Section 1 Class A champions who played a home game in the championship. The Class A title game was delayed twice because of weather, but the storms only postponed the inevitable. As Somers roared past Sleepy Hollow in the title game, behind yet another sensational effort from senior running back Stefano Bignice.
Bounces off a tackle. Bignice is loose.
Bignice guided Somers to an undefeated record in Section 1 and delivered legendary coach Tony DiMatteo his second sectional title in 12 years at the school.
The way these kids practice and play for me, I will coach at Somers till I'm dead.
We'll win. We'll win. We're unstoppable on offense and defense.
In Class C, we had a break from the Dobbs Ferry dynasty. Woodlands ripped through its Section 1 schedule, going undefeated into the postseason and capturing its first ever Section 1 Class C title.
We've always been an underdog since we started, but being on top feels good for once.
The Falcons did it behind the play of defensive end Deshaun Downey, quarterback Justin Riccio, and running back Tyrone Barber.
Versus the field, and I have more time that I could ever want to talk to right now because he's off 99 yards for the touchdown return.
The Falcons made it to the state quarterfinals, but lost to O'Neill of Section 9. There was another first-time champ in Section 1 in Class B. Our Lady of Lourdes finally broke through after losing in the title game last season. Lourdes had arguably the biggest line in Section 1, led by star center Devlin Brennan.
I trust my line. I tell him before every play. I trust him and I love him and I want to run behind him.
After dominating the regular season, Lourdes found itself trailing in the Section 1 final to Pleasantville at halftime. Then came running back Bryce Joya.
Bryce to the 10, 5, touchdown. The kid deserves it. 33's been the workhorse.
Joya carried the Warriors in a 14-9 victory. Lourdes' season ended the following week, losing in overtime to Section 9 champion Marlboro.
1, 2, 3,
In Class D, Tuckahoe reestablished itself as the premier small school program in the region.
You guys stuck together. You kept working hard. We're here now.
After a late season slump, the Tigers turned it on in the postseason, due in large part to the play of fullback Nick Reisman. Reisman scored 9 touchdowns in 6 playoff games, earning MVP honors in the Section 1 final win over Haldane. He led Tuckahoe to the state title game before losing to Randolph of the Buffalo region. The highlight of the year in Section 1 was New Rochelle. The Huguenots played a string of close games in the section before a crushing loss in the regular season finale to North Bergen of New Jersey. That game, however, turned New Rochelle's season around. The Huguenots had a pair of blowouts in the Section 1 playoffs, claiming their 6th title in 7 years.
We have a lot of motivation, and we just work hard, and we play as a team, so there's nothing really stopping us right now.
New Rochelle used a heart-pounding fourth-quarter drive in the state semifinals, beating Shaker of Section 2 28-21. That secured their 5th trip to the Carrier Dome.
It was my dream since I was a little kid to play in Syracuse, and I finally get my ticket to play in Syracuse.
There, the Huguenots played a near-flawless game, blowing out defending champ Orchard Park of Buffalo for their first state title since 2003.
What I do know is I'm real proud of these kids, the way they grew up, the way they've responded, the way they've become team leaders, the way they've become unselfish. I'm really proud for them, and I hope they enjoy it.
Let's take a look now at just how good New Rochelle was this season. From a defensive standpoint, the Huguenots posted 6 shutouts and was just minutes away from a 7th before Orchard Park scored a late fourth-quarter touchdown in the state title game. The Huguenots only allowed 2 first-half touchdowns all season long. Offensively, in the regular season, the Huguenots scored 110 points, and then they turned it up in the playoffs, posting 156 in 5 playoff games. Khalil Edney led the charge on offense in the playoffs, going 41 of 68 passing for 623 yards and 10 touchdowns. He also rushed for 242 yards and 2 scores. Speaking of New Rochelle, let's take a look now at my Section 1 Player of the Year.
Section 1 Player of the Year, Khalil Edney, New Rochelle.
Back in August, expectations were set very high for Khalil Edney. 3 months later, he exceeded them all. New Rochelle's senior quarterback carried the offense and went unbeaten in Section 1, claiming the Class AA title in an MVP performance.
We was hungry from day one. We wanted it. Even though our offense didn't put up much points during the regular season, when it came down to the playoffs, we had to get going.
Edney's season was just starting. He was the MVP in the state quarterfinals and then engineered a game-winning drive in the final minutes of the semis. His touchdown pass to Joe Clark lifted New Rowe to a win over Shaker and yet again earned him MVP honors.
It feels good, to get the win. And that's a great team over there, Shaker. They never gave up. And we just had to grind to the end and take 48 minutes to play a game.
Edney capped his memorable season in the Carrier Dome, leading the Huguenots to a state championship. He passed for 2 touchdowns and ran for 2 more. Edney ended the season with 1,460 yards passing and 19 touchdowns and rushed for a team-high 540 yards and 6 scores.
3rd and 12. Edney, flush out of the pocket, tosses it up, completed to Clark Jr. Here goes Joe Clark Jr. Broken. Off to the races, Joe Clark Jr. Oh my goodness! If that's not a championship play, I don't know what is.
The last honor Edney earns is this: the KDJ Section 1 Player of the Year. And here we are at New Rochelle High School with our Player of the Year, Khalil Edney. Khalil, congratulations.
Thank you.
Surprised about the award or what?
A little bit surprised, I came in the season determined, and this is just the honor to be Player of the Year.
You also came into the season with a lot of hype and a lot of expectations. You go out, you have 2,000 yards of total offense, you win a state championship. Did you exceed those expectations, and how much pressure did you feel?
I wasn't pressured at all, Coach always kept me calm. My teammates kept me calm, so I was just ready.
You look back on the season, and winning a state championship is going to be the highlight, but what was your best moment as a football player, as a quarterback this year?
Last week against Shaker, the last minute and 35 seconds of that game. I had to calm down my teammates, in the huddle, told them to relax, we got enough time, and came down with the drive, the game-winning drive.
Tell me the truth, did you really feel relaxed, or were you just saying that?
I was relaxed. I wasn't in, when they scored, Joe Clark came to the sideline. He was heated, so I told him, relax, we got enough time. This is not the first time we've been down like this, and I was ready to go.
So Khalil Edney's our first team quarterback on the MSU Varsity Section 1 All-Star team. Let's take a look now at the rest of the All-Stars, starting with the offense. Here are the 5 offensive linemen: Devlin Brennan of Our Lady of Lourdes, Charlie Crenentino of Harrison, Tommy Hopkins of Westlake, Brandon Weir of Poughkeepsie, and Ray Ganley of New Rochelle. There's a few names in this list that you know very well, especially Charlie Crenentino of Harrison, a guy you've gone against in Champions Camp and in scrimmages.
He's very athletic for a big. He's a big guy. He's a big body on that team, and he gives his all every time. And even Ray Ganley on this year's team, he's one of our best linemen we have, and he had trouble blocking him.
Ray Ganley also making the MSU Varsity All-Star team as an offensive lineman. Crenentino headed to Fordham. Ray Ganley, just as good of a two-way lineman there probably is in Section 1.
He's a workhorse, he gives it all: practice, game, scrimmage, film. He's 100% every time.
Now here are the skill position guys. Of course, yourself, Khalil Edney of New Rochelle, the quarterback; Stefano Bignice of Somers at running back; Bryce Joya of Our Lady of Lourdes at running back; Joe Letizia, our running back from Tappan Zee; Jack Lambert, John J. Cross River, wide receiver; and Devontae Hamilton, the sophomore, wide receiver from Poughkeepsie. You went against Stefano Bignice of Somers. What was your impression when you saw him this summer?
He's a great running back, He's fast, he's quick, he's elusive, and I think he's a great kid.
Now to the defensive side of the ball, and Deshaun Downey of Woodlands on the defensive line, Dylan Owen, a senior from Somers on defensive line, and Joe Clark, New Rochelle defensive lineman. The linebackers: John Dapolito of North Rockland, Jacob Wiegard of Our Lady of Lourdes, Joe Lombardo of Somers, and Terrence Holden of New Rochelle. Joe Clark, and just the way he grew up as a football player this year, especially on the defensive side, where I think he made his biggest impact. How good was he as the year went on?
He got better every game, There was games where he could have played much better than what he did, but he came out great. He had a great season on defense.
Finally, our Section 1 first team secondary and specialist: Nick Mariano of Yorktown defensive back, another defensive back, Jason Senius of New Rochelle, Nick Connell of North Rockland, Tyrone Barber of Woodlands, our kicker, Paul Prendergast of North Rockland, and our specialists, the athlete positions, DeAndre Smith of Poughkeepsie and Tim Suave of Dobbs Ferry. And obviously we know Nick Connell had the big play against you guys last year to knock you guys out of the playoffs. Does that still bother you a little bit with him?
A little bit. We felt like last year was our year, and he's the reason we didn't make it.
So that's going to do it for here at New Rochelle High School. Go on to MSUVarsity.com and get the complete list of first, second team Section 1 All-Star selections. After the break, we're going to continue our Hudson Valley All-Star Football Review Show. We're going to recap the season in Section 9.
This is MSG varsity producer Chris Caron, and my favorite moment of the season was Panis' stunning overtime win over Lakeland in the final week of the regular season. Former soccer player Chris Pieto's 49-yard game-tying field goal sent the game to overtime and Panis to the playoffs for the first time since 2004.
This is MSG varsity reporter Kevin Kurtz, and my favorite moment of the season was Ramapo's last-minute triumph over Clarkstown North in Week 3. Shaquille Muscadin's acrobatic catch of a Rodney Etienne pass in the back corner of the end zone with just 54 seconds remaining gave the Griffins a 19-17 lead and their first win of the year.
This is MSG varsity photographer Amy Garcia, and my favorite moment of this season was when Somers head coach Tony DiMatteo enhanced his spot in New York State history with his 300th career victory. It was amazing to see the fans and many former players of DiMatteo show up to witness the milestone. DiMatteo is the only coach from Section 1 to reach 300 wins and is now 4th on the New York State all-time wins list.
Somers coach Tony DiMatteo, of course, getting his 300th win, number 302, came in the Section 1 championship as they beat Sleepy Hollow. That's going to do it for our Section 1 coverage. We're in the car now. We're leaving New Rochelle. We're heading up to Section 9. We're going to meet our Section 9 Player of the Year. We're going to reveal the All-Star team. But first, let's take a look back at the highlights of the season in Section 9. In Class D, the Chester Dynasty reigned in Section 9 this fall. Despite graduating the core of last year's state finalist squad, the Hambletonians managed to capture their third straight sectional title. Chester was led by seniors Lawrence Young and Justin Delgado, but the Hambletonians' run ended in the state quarterfinals with a loss to Tuckahoe. It had been 17 years since a Class C team in Section 9 won a state tournament game. O'Neill finally ended that streak. Behind the play of star running back Jerry Nassie, the Indians cruised to a Section 9 title and then knocked off Woodlands of Section 1 in the state quarters. The best season in school history ended the following week with a loss to Hoosick Falls of Section 2, which went on to win the state title. Marlboro in Class B took another big step under third-year coach Rich Ward.
This is crucial now, let's go, punch this in!
The Iron Dukes went unbeaten in the regular season, highlighted by wins over Wallkill and Spackenkill, before defeating the Spartans again for their second straight sectional title.
We just won a Section 9 championship!
Marlboro's biggest win, though, came in the state quarterfinals. Behind quarterback Justin Vada, the Iron Dukes rallied back to beat Lourdes in overtime on an Adden Lawback field goal.
It's going to be a while, I feel like, before. Maybe when I get on the bus, maybe when I get home, I realize we just won our first regional championship. Everyone talks about how we can't beat Section 1, coming out and trying to prove something.
It was much of the same in Class A, as Cornwall won a Section 9 title for the 7th time in 8 years. The Dragons had the most explosive offense in the region, which was never more evident than in a 53-0 win over Wallkill in the final.
Linemen blocked well, running backs ran well, wide receivers caught well, so we did what we had to do on offense this day.
Cornwall then rolled past Somers in the state quarterfinals before falling to eventual state champion Burnt Hills of Albany in the state semis.
You guys accomplished a lot. I mean, more than anybody thought. I never would have thought we would win 11-0 and then been in this game again.
Class AA featured a new champion as Pine Bush finally broke through. The Bushmen upset Monroe Woodbury in the title game as their big and physical offensive and defensive lines paved the way.
It's amazing. That's the only word that can describe it. We're the champions.
Pine Bush, though, proved to be no match in the state tournament, losing to eventual champ New Rochelle of Section 1.
Section 9 Player of the Year, Mike White, Cornwall.
Mike White was the most prolific passer in the Hudson Valley this season. Leading the region in completions, yards, and touchdowns. In fact, in 2 of the biggest games of the year, White was so good, he had a season's worth of stats.
Oh, he's throwing perfect. It was really easy to get that deep pass over here. He threw it right in my hands. It was perfect.
White set a Section 9 record for passing yards in a game with 500 against Wallkill in the Class A championship.
Just working hard every day in practice, so linemen blocked well, running backs ran well, wide receivers caught well, so we did what we had to do on offense this day.
In the state quarterfinals against Somers, White threw for 433 more yards and 3 scores, leading Cornwall to the state semifinals for the 3rd time in 4 years.
Mike White, the junior, has thrown for 900 yards in his last 2 playoff games.
Somers has never seen anything like this before. They're in the spread offense. Mike White's so accurate. This is off his back foot to Alex Bauer. He was just all over the field. He had over 300 yards in the first half. This one got a little lucky here. He said at the end of the game, as well. He just threw it up there, but this is his guy, Alex Cruz, this Wes Welker type guy, always finding holes, getting open, and then he has the second gear to take it to the house.
White finished a brilliant junior year with 2,674 yards and 28 touchdowns, coming up just shy for single-season Section 9 records.
He has a lot of confidence in himself and the receivers. In practice, the throws he makes sometimes we're like, did he just, So it's just, he just has it.
White will have a chance to break those all next season, as well as vie for a third straight Section 9 title, and maybe repeat as KDJ's Section 9 Player of the Year. I'm joined now by our Section 9 Player of the Year, Mike White of Cornwall. Mike, congratulations. When you hear those numbers, over 2,000 yards passing, all those touchdowns, can you wrap your brain around the season you had?
I mean, it's a great feeling knowing that I did all that, but I mean, I could have done it without the team, so I got to give a lot of thanks to them.
When you look back, I mean, what was the highlight for you? And you look at a lot of big wins that you had. What was the highlight moment?
I mean, obviously all the records and stuff were great too, but definitely winning the section championship and then throwing for all those yards and touchdowns against Walker was definitely good.
500 yards passing in that game. Did you have any idea afterwards?
I mean, the kids on the sideline were coming up to me. They were all excited about it. And I mean, I had no clue during the game. I had no clue that it was many yards, but it feels good. I'm excited.
When you look back on the season, and we talk about the numbers you put up, you did it mostly without playing a lot in the second half of these games. How were you able to do it, and what do you think you could have done if you played 4 quarters?
I mean, obviously I could have done a little bit more. Could have had a little more yards and a little more touchdowns. But I mean, without my lineman blocked for me, and that's how I did that. That's how I did all that with the wide receivers, and it's good to get the second team some chances to play.
And the season ending in the state semifinals. You have another year. What does next year have in store for Mike White?
Hopefully something great and fun like this year. It should be exciting, and I'm thrilled to play next year.
Let's take a look now at the MSG Varsity Section 9 All-Star team, starting with the offense. Of course, Mike White, the quarterback, the first-team quarterback at the top of the list. Matt Weaver of Warwick, Jerry Nassie round out the backfield, Brad Garcia, Justin Kaffenberger, Alex Cruz of Cornwall at the receiver positions. On the offensive line, Nick Dillon of Monroe Woodbury, Tyler Mastrantonio of Marlboro, Matt McCaffrey of Pine Bush, Andrew Connors of Wallkill, and Mike Saraceno of Newburgh. A name we know very well with Cornwall for you personally is Alex Cruz. How good of a receiver was Alex Cruz this season?
Oh, Alex is great. He's quick, he's got hands, and he can do it all. So he's great.
As many yards as you put up in the championship games, he also was on the receiving end of a lot of those yards, and also in the state quarterfinals. Just tell me the way he played and the way he's able to catch the ball.
I mean, he was always there for me. He sees the ball go up. It could be intercepted, or he'd come down with it. You don't know. I mean, it could be a cruddy thrown ball, but he's coming down with it no matter what.
I think Section 9, the deepest position in outside of quarterback maybe, is at wide receiver, and another one is Justin Kaffenberger.
Kaffenberger's great. Watching him play, I went to a couple of Monroe games with some of the Cornwall kids, and Kaffenberger's great. He catches all the passes. He goes up. He plays quarterback. He does it all for them. He's a great player.
Now to the defense, starting with the defensive line: Connor Stottle, Cornwall; Joseph Champaglione, FDR Hyde Park; Kenny Fee of Monroe Woodbury; Josh Riley, the star from Spackenkill; Pat Landro from Cornwall in the linebacker position. Also, Marlboro's Section 9 championship linebacker Matt Tambury; hardcore Coleman of Newburgh; Cole Jeanette, Monroe Woodbury; and the secondary, Austin Ferrier, Menacing Valley; Anthony Vega of Cornwall; and Matt Geisler of Pine Bush. Again, more of your teammates, and one guy who was on both sides of the offensive and defensive line, Connor Stottle. How good were he and Pat Landro in the middle of the defense?
I mean, it was hard to stop them coming up the line. They're throwing everyone off on offense. They're stopping the run. They're stopping the pass. They can do it all. They're good. They're a good tag team.
And another guy you know very well from Monroe Woodbury is just a sophomore in Cole Jeanette.
Cole's great. He's a big kid. He's young. He knows what he's doing, and he gets to the ball.
Did you catch Marlboro much this season? Do you know much about Matt Tambury as a player?
I've heard about him, reading him in the paper, and I mean, from what I hear, he's a great player.
A name that jumps out at you, not because his name is Hardcore, but Hardcore Coleman of Newburgh. You know him very well?
I mean, back in 7-on-7 at Warwick, rolling out to the right on one play, I remember it, and he just jumps up. He was really high off the ground. He just smacked the ball right down in front of me. So it was crazy. He's a good defensive player.
So that's going to do it for our Section 9 All-Stars. Mike White, congratulations, Player of the Year. Hope we'll be back next year doing the same thing. When we come back, we're going to take a break. When we come back, highlight the best games this season and wrap up our All-Star show.
This is MSG Varsity reporter John Malone, and my favorite moment of the season was the final minutes of the Section 1 Class A semifinal game between Sleepy Hollow and Brewster. The Bears led 21-10 with 2:27 left before Sleepy Hollow's Isaiah San Juan scooped up a fumble and returned it for a touchdown. San Juan wasn't done though. With 28 seconds left, he made a spectacular over-the-shoulder catch for a 49-yard game-winning touchdown to send the Horsemen to the Section 1 championship game.
In all practice, I would tell Coach, Coach, just throw me a go, just throw me a go. And, he put me in, and, like, my friend Devin, that's my best friend, he just threw it up. And, in my head I was just saying, God's gonna help me with this, and I caught it. I'm just so thankful for that.
This is MSG varsity reporter Chris Perez, and my favorite moment of the season was watching Woodland's Tyrone Barber against Class D state finalist Tuckahoe in October. Barber accounted for more than 300 all-purpose yards in the day, including a 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown where he broke a tackle on his goal line and reversed course in the end zone before flying up the sideline for his 5th touchdown of the afternoon. That afternoon, Barber made his case for being one of the most exciting players in the section, regardless of class.
This is MSG varsity reporter Jordan Griffith, and my favorite moment of the year is Joe Clark's performance in the 4th quarter of the state semifinals against Shaker. Clark made every big play the Huguenots needed, capping it off with an interception to seal the win and send New Rochelle to its 5th appearance in the New York State Finals.
Coaches told us to keep our head up, and that's what we did. And we went out and executed on offense and got a touchdown.
This is MSG varsity production assistant Robert Lieber, and my favorite moment of the season was Saunders' win over Spring Valley on senior night. Just after the loss of his father, Francisco Wilson King scored a touchdown in a game the Blue Devils would come from behind to win, helping Saunders make an unlikely playoff appearance.
MSG varsity reporter John Malone, he saw some good ones this season, but I think I saw the best game in the Hudson Valley for 2012, and it was here at John Jay Cross River High School in week 2 when John Jay hosted Harrison. There was so much build up for this game, and they delivered in a game that didn't even look like it would be all that close at halftime.
There's my boys, looking sharp, look sharp.
John Jay Cross River roared out of the gates, taking a 34-7 lead on Harrison, scoring a touchdown on a fake punt on the opening drive of the 3rd quarter.
Hell of a job, brother, hell of a job.
Harrison looked finished, but then came Vinny Nisita to the rescue. The senior quarterback threw for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns, engineering 4 straight scoring drives in a stunning 35-34 win. Harrison went unbeaten through the regular season, and that win was the best game of the year in the Hudson Valley.
I mean, I don't know if number 1 or what, but it's definitely up there. Just the resilience that this team showed. Any other team could have packed it in right there.
On that same night, though, Ossining and Yorktown staged one of the best as well. Ossining rallied back from a 22-0 deficit as Justin Davidoff ran for a touchdown and threw for 3 more, including the game-tying score with 6.5 seconds left to force overtime. Yorktown actually blocked an extra point at the end of regulation and won it on a Nick Mariano touchdown run. Mariano was playing the game in honor of former Ossining football star Christian Federico, who passed away 2 years ago.
I used to live in Ossining. I was a ball boy up until 8th grade, and I lost a friend here 3 years ago, and I just wanted to play for him, and it feels good.
Yorktown beat Ossining 35-34. In week 3, Scarsdale and White Plains staged another overtime thriller in Section 1. This game was just 7-0 at the half before the offenses erupted. White Plains clawed back from a 27-14 deficit in the 4th quarter on touchdown runs by Chris Jordan and Ari Shamri to force overtime. In OT, Andrew Boyce put Scarsdale ahead on a keeper, and then the Raiders defense held White Plains on a game-winning 2-point conversion attempt. Scarsdale beat White Plains for the first time in 6 years, 34-33.
When we were 0-2, it was all about getting things together, playing together so that we can, win games, because we know that we are a great team.
The best game of the postseason was Sleepy Hollow's incredible comeback in the final minutes to beat undefeated Brewster in the Class A semis. Brewster led 21-10 with 2:27 remaining and had the football. Lightning, though, struck for the Headless Horseman. Isaiah San Juan returned a fumble 60 yards for a touchdown, and then San Juan hauled in an incredible 49-yard touchdown pass from Devin Lopez with 28 seconds to play in a 24-21 victory. The best game of the year in Section 9 was also in the postseason. Monroe Woodbury came back in the 4th quarter, driving 90 yards to beat Warwick in the Class AA semifinals. Kevin Carr led the charge. The junior quarterback threw a game-winning touchdown pass to Kenny Fee on 4th and goal from the 2 with 1:35 left. Monroe converted a 4th down earlier in the drive and knocked off Warwick 14-13. Those are some of the best games in the Hudson Valley this season. You can go on to msgvarsity.com, watch the full game highlights. You can also watch enhanced highlights. We put microphones on coaches every week throughout the season. Here's a little taste.
This is the game. We stop them, we win the game. Let's go. You are the man, Steven! You are the man, baby!
This game is supposed to be fun. Let's get out there and fly around, be fast, and have fun. Kids look like a dude. Time back to you are a dude. Let's go. I like that bomb. Take the throw, man.
Maybe NSG Varsity will send us to the NFL for me. Make sure that they understand and always remember the night they played for Tipsy. Tell you what, if Bieber's going to be a scholarship player, he needs to be one of the like a sack right here.
It's a hell of a first half on both sides of the ball. Playing with them, they're playing with us. We got to take it to them. We get the ball. Let's be the second half team we've been the last 3 weeks.
Someone's trying to take what you got. What do we do, guys? We send them to the kiddie table.
It's nothing right now, guys. You got to be excited about that. This is a game. This is what football's about, man.
Okay, we're up 14-0 now. Okay, we're going to be kicking off to them. Okay, we have to stop them. We have to put another one in.
We've never run this part. One more, it's a flood pattern with more coming out. Got a cardiac kids, whatever it is. I told you guys what you like when you put your minds to it and you focus.
Justin, look at me! Hey, you just won a Section 9 championship! We're here now. We're getting that swagger back. We're getting that confidence back. Gentlemen, you're going to Syracuse.
Thank you to all the coaches who led us into the locker room behind the scenes throughout the season. So that's going to do it for our Hudson Valley All-Star Show. We got to meet our Section 1 Player of the Year, our Section 9 Player of the Year, and of course you have to tune into the high school sports desk Thursday night at 7 p.m. where I reveal the Hudson Valley overall Player of the Year. So now we can finally make the transition from the football to the basketball season. I want to thank Khalil Edney of New Rochelle and Mike White of Cornwall for joining us on our show. Of course, I want to thank Chris Karen, our producer, and camera operator, Amy Garcia. We leave you now with the sights and sounds of the 2012 high school football season.
Biaggi to the end zone, and the catch is made by Chris Cooper.
Joya to the edge. Bryce Joya gonna lay it out. He's in for the score. Going to the near side. Livingston again under pressure. Guess who is there? Number 6, Brendan Pine. The freshman now has 4 sacks.
Out, he's gonna pass. Has a man. Touchdown. Dylan Eddy.
Flush out of the pocket, tosses it up, completed to Clark Jr. Here goes Joe Clark Jr. Broken. Off to the races, Joe Clark Jr. Oh my goodness. If that's not a championship play, I don't know what is.